All right, it's now 3 o'clock. What's going on, my friends? Chad here. We start with the NBA. The playoffs will continue tonight. Sixers and Knicks from Madison Square Garden at 4 o'clock on ESPN. Joel Embiid has been ruled out, and as a result, the Knicks are now a 10.5-point favorite in Game 2. Sixers looking to even up the series before they head back to Philadelphia. At 6:30, Timberwolves and Spurs Game 2 from San Antonio after a delightful Game 1. Spurs favored by 9.5. In Minnesota, we'll have the services of Dosunmu and Anthony Edwards. Oklahoma City got the win over the Lakers in Game 1 last night of their series. LA still uncertain when Luka Doncic will make his return. Game 2 tomorrow night. Mariners up 2-0 on the Braves, top of the 7th at T-Mobile Park. And from the NFL, Russell Wilson says he's weighing offers from the Jets and television networks as he decides on his future. The Rip City Drive is coming up next. Keith Smith talking NBA with me at 3:20.
Live from the Coors Light Studios, it's time for the Rip City Drive, hosted by the crazy and often irrational Chad Doing. Coors Light, mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill.
Jimmy Bickerstaff says, don't shoot it.
I would have.
Just win it. An 18-8 close for the Pistons after the Cleveland Cavaliers had tied the score at 93 with 5:28 to go in the game.
Three-pointer blocked by Laravia. Jay will get it back. Finds Shea. Roaming right. Pulling up in the lane. Finds Jay Will for three straight away in the tie. It's online and in there. Well done by SJ on the probe for his second assist. Gildas Alexander against a 1-2-2 zone. He's doubled. The foul line to Jay Will. Kicks left wing Dort open. Rainbow three up and in. Chachinga Thunder Moneyball. That'll bust that zone. Lou Dens Dort knocks down his second three-pointer of Game 1, and the Thunder go back up 9, 74-65. Front court, drives and kicks left wing to McCain. He wants three off the wing. Give it to him. Chachinga Thunder Moneyball. J-Mac splashes his second three of Game 1. He has 6 points. 91-75. Thunder by 16. Check the other way. 3-on-2 off the left side to McCain. Left corner Mitchell. Up the sideline McCain open. Left wing three on the way. Splash City. Chachinga Thunder Moneyball. Loud City loves it. Thunder by 19. Pulling away. And the Thunder will dribble it out and into a Game 1 win in the Western Conference semifinal against the Lakers. And they do it in fine, extended, methodical fashion. As the night wore on, they wore the Lakers down and hold LA to 90 points in the opener. Helped the Thunder to a Game 1, 108-90 rout of the Lakers. Game 2 coming up on Thursday at 8:30.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing starts now.
All right, looking forward to my conversation with Keith Smith, talking NBA coming up at 3:20. I'll be honest with you, I'm really annoyed, and the show has just gotten underway. It's a disaster. Nobody I work with wants to be with me and around as they continue to finish up their remodeling on the building. So we got carpet going down, there's glue everywhere, and I've got some clown with a gigantic jackhammer right outside the studio. It's just like, are you kidding me? It's not like I'm trying to do a radio show, you morons. I'm not asking for much, but can we keep the noise down just a scotch? So that's pretty annoying, and I keep getting messages about Tiago Splitter being let go by the Trailblazers. And what I can tell you is that he has not been let go. The Trailblazers, as has been reported, are putting together a wide net for their coaching search. Tiago Splitter, as pointed out by Joe Cronin at the exit interviews, is one of the candidates. But I've seen on social media, and really Facebook right now is one of the biggest violators, where there's these, I don't know if they're aggregated sites or what the deal is, but they just put out false reports on many different stories across sport. And so I've seen that pop up about Tiago. He has not been let go. Tiago Splitter is a candidate. I think he's the leader in the clubhouse, but the Blazers are going to do their due diligence and go through a wide net to be able to determine who's going to be the next head coach. And I got to be honest with you, while I definitely think that Tiago Splitter has earned the right to be the head coach of the Blazers, I have no problems with a new owner wanting to go through a process, be diligent to make sure that they find the right candidate. I think that's the way you should do it. Yes, Tiago Splitter is deserving. And yes, I think Tiago Splitter is going to be a coaching star, but it doesn't mean that he's the perfect coach for this team. I think I would probably give him the job, but I want to talk to other candidates too. I think that you have to do it just to make sure that you're going through the proper process. As I've mentioned before, when it comes to a coaching search, you want to talk to as many candidates, qualified candidates as possible, because you're going to learn a lot of data about your team, your players. You're going to learn about your coaching staff. You're going to get intel from these different basketball minds, people that really understand the game. And if you're a new owner like Tom Dundon, that information can help you evaluate what you've got. And then the other reason why you want to go through a wide net when you're trying to determine who your head coach should be, you might end up talking to somebody that in the beginning was not at the top of your list, but you talk to him and you find out, wow, this guy's brilliant. I like his ideas. I think he's a perfect match for our culture and what we're trying to build here. And then you can make the hire. But the reason why you go through the process is so you can run into and get a chance to talk to people just like that. And the other reason why you do it is that if you go through a wide net and you talk to many different candidates and you come back to the conclusion that Tiago Splitter's the right guy for the job, you only strengthen his position because you went out and talked to many qualified candidates. And after talking to everybody, you come back to the conclusion that Tiago Splitter's the right guy for the job. So it's that simple. You've got to be able to make those type of decisions. So Tiago Splitter has not been let go. The Blazers have not moved on from him, and no decision has been made. They're going to continue to go through the process. I think that's probably the next big step for the Trailblazers will be the head coaching search. After the head coaching search, then we'll start to move ahead to the offseason and consider the options that are out there. Are they going to go with status quo and continue to, work on internal development? Will they look to make a big splash and go after one of the big names that are available? We'll have to wait and see. But the next big thing will be the coaching search. Where they arrive, who gets the job, and the decisions that they make. Telephone number, if you want to reach out, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. I hope you're enjoying your Wednesday. I just got done with my workout, so my body's feeling pretty good, and I thought it was going to be a good afternoon until I arrived in the building. Absolute chaos in here, but it's close to being done. And then we got the email from the big boss today that the carpet is being laid and that you don't want to become the first person to spill on the carpet. But it's got that new carpet smell, which I appreciate. So they're working through it. But again, when you've got guys, you're trying to do a radio show and you got dudes with hammers and big machinery and they're clueless about the importance of sound and what that means for radio, it's a bit annoying. But they're good dudes. But they're working through and getting all of the different particulars done. So we're almost done with that, which is nice. All right, basketball last night. I'm one of the biggest critics of LeBron James. I've made no secret about that. He drives me crazy. He's a terrific basketball player, but his need and desire for constant attention, it makes my stomach turn. I also don't like the fact that he has a lot of media members who are on the Clutch payroll, who are out there trying to force the narrative that somehow he is the greatest of all time. And if the NBA comes out and retires the number 23, it's going to make me sick as well. But put all that aside, the Lakers last night dropped game one in Oklahoma City. And it's not a surprise. And it has nothing to do with LeBron or the Lakers. Oklahoma City is the best team in the NBA. They're the defending champs. They have incredible balance, both offense and defense. And they've got star power in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, he is a flopper. And he is hunting whistles. And he has become the best at that craft. And it's really annoying to watch him play because you have no chance of not getting a whistle blown on you if he flops or falls to the ground. It's very weak and it's very soft, but at the same time, if you can get away with it and get to the foul line and it helps your team, then more power to you. But it's not my style of basketball. But Oklahoma City is a dominant basketball team. They're great, and they're going to win another championship, I believe. But last night after the game, LeBron was asked, hey, what's up with the offensive struggles? What's up with the issues that you guys are having on offense? Now, keep in mind, they have no Luka Doncic, who's like one of the best offensive players on the entire planet. But here's an answer from LeBron that I actually am like, obviously, the reporter after the game.
Where do you think the offensive issues are coming from right now? Obviously, that's a great...
After the game.
Where do you think the offensive issues are coming from right now? Obviously, that's a great defense.
Issues coming from?
Yeah.
We have a guy that averaged 37 a game. What did he average, 35 this year? 33 and a half?
Yeah.
I mean, What are you asking?
Okay, well, I'm asking. I mean, like you guys.
There's the issues right there. We're playing against the number one defensive team in the NBA as far as the ratings and everything. And when you play against great defense, you have to have guys that can attract multiple defenders on the floor at all time. Even I felt like we had great shots. We got some great shots tonight. We missed them. But when you play against the world champions, having a guy that averages 34, 6 and 8 and 8 and 9, whatever the hell, that's special. So we have to be better at finding ways to get to the blender, finding ways to get to the paint. We know they're a paint swarming team, so we have to be better with get into the paint, not turn the ball over, and then shooting with confidence. But I feel like we got some really good looks. But we should have to make it.
All right, there you go. That's LeBron James. I agree. He's not making excuses. He's just pointing out the obvious. That's why the question was, was kind of dumb. Well, hey, LeBron, what do you think is up with your offensive issues right now? Well, let's see here. We're playing Oklahoma City, and we don't have Luka Doncic, who's one of the best players on the planet. Might be the best offensive player in the entire world. We don't have him. He averaged over 33 points per game, and he's got a lot of gravity. He attracts attention. He opens up space for everybody else on the floor. And if you take Hachimura and LeBron away from the guys who played last night for the Lakers, I think they shot a grand total of 29%. Well, I can tell you right now, if you shoot 29% on the road in Oklahoma City against the Thunder, you're going to get your ass whooped. This is not a surprise. They need Luka, and even if they had Luka, they would still have issues because Oklahoma City is that dominant. So I don't think that was a situation where LeBron was making excuses. I think he was just pointing out the obvious. We have issues on offense because we don't have the best offensive player in the league available right now because of injury. And according to the latest report I saw, they still have no clear idea of when Luka is going to make his return. So we'll see. But look, as much as I can't stand LeBron, I support him 100% in his comments last night. I thought he played really well last night, but the Lakers just don't have enough shot makers, enough guys who can create, and to be able to score the way you have to score to keep up with Oklahoma City. But I've got a lot of respect for OKC. Not the foul hunting and the flopping and the sissy play. Like, that drives you crazy. As Kobe would say, for those who flop, where are your balls at? I mean, come on, man. Respect the game. You don't always have to flop around. And at least there were a couple times last night where Shea looked like a fool because he was flopping around like a fish, hitting the ground, and no whistle came. And then you really understand how ridiculous it looks. But it's really hard. The guy's hard enough to defend as it is, but when the officials are giving him the benefit of the doubt on everything, it's like really annoying. But that's the league now. I don't know who to blame for all the flopping, but it's gone rampant. I don't know if it's the infusion of the Euros. That could be part of it. The officiating's really bad. And if you're a star player, I mean, shame on you for not trying to figure out how to fool the officials. We'll talk to Keith Smith about that coming up next. He's one of the best. I love talking with him. We'll get his take on Jaylen Brown. Is he looking to find a way out of Boston? What does he think about the young Trailblazers and their future with Tom Dundon coming in? Should they look to make a big splash right now? And what about the playoff series that we're looking at right now? Is Minnesota in a position to where they're going to win that series with San Antonio? Are the Spurs in trouble because they lack the proper postseason experience to deal with adversity? Keith Smith's coming up next. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. I appreciate your time on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, I really do appreciate our next guest. He does a heck of a job covering the NBA from the front office show and Spotrac. It's Keith Smith. You can follow him on social at Keith Smith NBA. He's back on the Rip City Drive. Now, Keith, I was having a debate with a couple of guys here in studio. What is the proper pronunciation for Spotrac? Is it Spotrac, Spotrac? How do you say it?
If I had $1 every time this was here, I wouldn't even pick up the phone for anybody anymore. It's spot track.
Yes.
So like you're smushing together the word spot and the word track. So
Okay.
spot track.
All right, we got it. Now, what's a bigger story in the Boston area right now? Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini or the Celtics meltdown against the Sixers?
I think for at least another day or two, it'll be the Celtics meltdown, and then everyone's going to move on and back to complaining about the Red Sox on a daily basis with a little bit of the Patriots mixed in.
All right, I am not around the Celtics like you are. I didn't see the loss to the Sixers as devastating because in my mind, they were ahead of schedule with the return of Jason Tatum coming back sooner than many thought after the injury last year. They had a successful season. I thought Joe Mazzulla did a heck of a job. And then, they didn't have a healthy squad at the end of that series against the Sixers. They did blow a 3-1 lead, but all in all, I thought it was a good season. Is that a fair assessment, or was that loss to the Sixers a complete and utter disaster?
Yeah, I think if you go all the way back to the way we were talking about the Celtics going into the season, it was 100% a successful year. Everyone thought, all right, this team is going to be probably in the play-in tournament if they make the playoffs at all. They ended up being the second seed. Jason Tatum returned. Other than whatever injury he picked up here in the last couple of games of the season, he looked great. He looked good. Jaylen Brown had a breakout year. A lot of their role players played really well. So by all measures, it was a really successful season. I think the challenge is once they overachieve so much, they reset the bar. And then that made people think, all right, you know what, this is a season where now we expect that these guys should be able to go even further. And I think that is, where the challenge is. And then anytime you're up 3-1 in a series, you ought to be able to close it out. And this is just, I don't know what number example we're on, but another time where the Celtics just fell a little short.
Yeah, the only issue I took was after Game 4, Jason Tatum, when he said, hey, we got 3 games to win 1. And I didn't like that mindset because in my mind, it's like, no, we're going to go back to Boston. We're going to close this out in 5, and we're going to get ready for the next round and get some extra rest. I didn't like that mindset, but all in all, I mean, it was tough because once Joel Embiid came back, no matter what Boston did, they didn't really have an answer for him. Did you have any issues with the rotations or decisions made in games 5, 6, and 7 from Joe Mazzulla?
When they got to Game 7, yeah, I thought the starting group he came out with was kind of ludicrous at that point. I mean, Ron Harper Jr., all credit to him. He looks like he may have a nice NBA career, but this guy hasn't played much in the NBA. He was on a 2-way contract until the end of the year. It just isn't, great that this is where this kind of was that they went to him. And then Luka Garza over to Mia Cade. I get it. They were worried about Cato was, getting himself into foul trouble guarding Embiid over and over and over again. But I just thought it was trying to do a little too much and be a little too cute. And I think he realized it too because he went away from it very, very quickly.
Is Jaylen Brown frustrated in Boston?
Yeah, he seems to be. We're not, in a place where we know for sure. And Brad Stevens did media availability today and said, he hasn't heard that direct from Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen Brown, very strongly multiple times saying this was his favorite season when he won a championship 2 years ago and was the finals MVP. That's a little weird. It feels like a little off to be like, you won the title a couple of years. Was that not your favorite season? He was very clear at the end of the season when things wrapped up against Philadelphia. He didn't like the way the team played, not just because they lost, but he didn't like the style they had played with down the stretch and those kind of things. So I think all around, you have to start to question is the kind of prevailing take that many are starting to have is that Jaylen Brown would like to have his own team. And he got a taste of that for 3/4 of the season and seemed to enjoy it and would like to kind of continue that way.
Do you think they would consider moving him?
I do, and I think they've tried in the past. He's been involved in trade rumors in the past. It's, the one guy who hasn't been, there's never been any form of credible reporting ever that Jason Tatum was involved. And there was even comments when Jaylen Brown was in trade talks where it was, hey, to get really great players, sometimes you have to move really good players. And there was a talk at one point of, all right, they're going to try to move him and they're going to try to get Kevin Durant. That was a couple years ago. I don't know where all of that stands now. I think we're more in a place where that would probably look a little different because Kevin Durant's older now and in those things. But yeah, I do think that they would consider trading Jaylen Brown in the right deal. They're certainly not going to give him away and they're not looking to just get rid of him. But if the right deal comes around, yeah, I absolutely think they would trade him.
All right, got one more question about Boston. With the people you talk to around the league, there's been some criticism of their volume of three-point shots, and we saw that in the final couple of minutes of Game 7 when they missed 7 threes when they had a chance to take the lead. Do you think Boston needs to have a fallback plan to be more versatile to where they can get buckets in those games where they are ice cold from three, or do you just trust the formula that won them a championship?
Yeah, so this has been a popular point of discussion over the last couple of days here, a few days since they lost. I think the answer is if you're going to continue to play this way and shoot this many three-pointers per game, then you need to be in a position where you have better shooters on the floor more often. I think the Celtics' issue was this year that they didn't have great shooters on the floor at all times. And if you're not going to be able to put 4 guys who can shoot and shoot at a high percentage at a high volume on the floor, you're probably going to struggle to win games at the clip you're used to, especially when the games get a little more meaningful. And if you can't find those shooters, then you have to have another way. You have to have another way, whether that's guys getting downhill and getting to the basket, or you get a big man that you can throw it inside to. Those guys are so few and far between in today's NBA I don't know that that's going to be how that would go, but those are certainly things you need to start to look at if you're the Celtics, if you're going to be committed to the style, or you have to start to think about changing the style at least slightly.
We're talking to Keith Smith, who covers the NBA for Spot Track and the Front Office Show. I really am enjoying watching this Minnesota Timberwolves team right now in the postseason. I think, Keith, it's because they remind me of basketball teams when I was younger in the late 80s and early 90s with their toughness and their defense. I still can't believe that Anthony Edwards came back and was able to make a strong contribution in game number 1. What are your thoughts on the job that they have done thus far and now up 1-0 on San Antonio?
Yeah, surprise win, right? We felt like maybe they might get there when it was, how do I put this, when it looked like Anthony Edwards was maybe going to play, and then he played, and it was like, all right, let's see what they've got for the Spurs. And them getting that done was just really something else. They played so well in that game. You're absolutely right. They are extremely physical. They're going to talk a lot. They're going to let you know. And they aren't afraid to, kind of put it out there and back it up. And I think that's a lot of fun. People get all worked up when teams, yap a lot, but I don't mind it when they back it up. If you're going to yap, you better back it up. If you're not going to back it up, then, keep it quiet. But Wolves, more often than not, they're going to let you know, and then they're going to back it up.
I've never seen a player like Jaden McDaniels call out guys by name and just go down the list like we saw after Game 2 against the Nuggets. I've never seen that before. I've been watching basketball for a long time, but like you said, he went out and backed it up, and I find his approach and how hard he plays to be quite refreshing.
Yeah, it really is, and he's turned into a heck of a player. This is a guy who I think a lot of people weren't sure, is he going to, what is he going to be? Is he going to be, that good, in the league, or is he just going to be, kind of a nice defensive player, and, will he turn into more? And instead, here he is, he's become a really good offensive player, can do stuff with the ball in his hands. And you're absolutely right. That reminded me of, when every once in a while in the NBA, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, somebody would call somebody out. I remember when the Knicks got Gerald Wilkins, and they were like, yeah, he's the Jordan stopper. And Jordan was like, Gerald Wilkins is the Jordan stopper? Like, what are we doing here? And then proceeded to, go out and bust him for 50-plus points. Like, It really was, something else. But, yeah, McDaniel's doing it and then taking it right to those guys. When he said none of these guys play defense, that was really special.
It was special. All right, the Knicks, compared to the Celtics, I thought had a disappointing regular season. We all thought going in that they would be the favorite in the Eastern Conference to get back to the finals with the injury to Jason Tatum, and yet it never really quite came together during the regular season. But, after the first couple of games against the Hawks in the first round, They are on absolute fire right now. And we just found out that Joel Embiid's not going to be available for Game 2 tonight. What do you think has changed over the last 3 or 4 games for the Knicks to allow them to really take off? And not just offensively, where they're shooting the ball well and we're seeing good movement, but their defense has gone up a couple of notches.
Yeah, it's consistency on the defensive end for me. They're locking in on that end, and then they're allowing their defense to fuel their offense. They're getting stops and then getting right off. They're moving the ball quicker, it looks like to me, up the floor, getting into their stuff. They're not allowing the defense to kind of load to them. And then they're getting right to the matchups they want. Instead of for a lot of times this year, when things went a little sideways offensively, they'd mess around for 10, 15 seconds with the shot clock and then finally get into something. Now they seem to be, let's get into this action, and we're going to get right to the matchup we want. And that's the worry for the Sixers. Even with with Embiid, they don't match up necessarily great with the Knicks because of the defensive side of it. And now I do wonder, Philly at times they've had a lot of experience playing without Embiid, and the Knicks they've been good and consistent recently, but they don't always keep their foot on the gas. So if they let up at all, this could get kind of into a weird bit of a troublesome place for them, where all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's like, all right, we're in a tight game that we didn't expect to be in. Yeah,
no question about it. Now, one thing I love about you is that you pay attention to the entire league. The Trailblazers, a successful season, 6-game improvement. They had a winning record, got through the play-in, and had a first-round playoff series against the San Antonio Spurs. They've got a new owner coming in, and they've got some very good players, part of that young core. Do you think this offseason now, with some of the veteran contracts they have and the draft picks that Joe Cronin's been able to pull together, do you think now would be a good time for the Blazers to look to go big game hunting?
Yeah, I think they can, because they're not super young. It's not like they've got a whole bunch of guys on their first, second year. Even their younger players are starting to graduate into that second contract or get close to it. So I think you've definitely got that. You have Damian Lillard coming back next season, so that lends a certain amount of, we expect to be pretty good and pushed, and he obviously has taken a star leap and is established. And then I think the nice thing is guys like Jeremy Grant and Drew Holiday, whose contracts were a little I don't know that I really love those. Now it's only a couple years left on those deals, and Holiday played really well at times. So I think he's rehabbed his value quite a bit. And then even Jeremy Grant, I think there are teams that are you know what, it's a little bit of an overpay, but it's not, we're not desperately underwater here. We could do that, and they've got some contracts to put into trades if they want to go that direction. So I certainly think that this is going to be an off season to watch for the Trailblazers trying to get some stuff done, mostly because I don't think we're going to see them be in position to be like big spenders in free agency or anything like that, because they locked into some money for Sharp and Kamara. But I do think we're going to see them active in the trade market for sure.
Keith, a lot of fans here are very pleased with the work of Tiago Splitter in a difficult situation this year after Chauncey Billups was taken away by the FBI after game number 1. Well, what are some things as the Blazers go through their coaching search? What are you hearing around the league about Tiago Splitter and the work he did in year number 1 under the circumstances he was in?
Yeah, really nothing but praise for him, because it's, he spent months gearing up to be, the lead assistant, and then, game into the season, it's, hey, guess what? You're the coach now. And that's hard. That was hard on him. That was hard on the players. That's hard on the other coaches, because now everybody is, all right, now everybody moves up the seat, right? And it's going to be there. And for them to have the success that they had, I've heard nothing but praise for him. I heard a lot of people like his direct nature, like he doesn't kind of beat around the bush. He's like what he was as a player, where it is very, hey, this is what I'm seeing, this is what we need to do, and this is how we're going to act and how we're going to play. And that team, I think, took on a little bit of his personality once they got going, where it was, all right, let's get after it. We're going to be here every night. You're going to feel us. We're going to show up. We're going to play hard. And you can't ask for much more than that, especially under the circumstances.
All right, one more question for you. A lot of fans are frustrated right now when they watch Oklahoma City play because of the foul hunting that we see from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. What's your take on what you see from the Thunder, especially with Shai when it comes to the officiating?
Yeah, I think the other frustration that they add in there is they're extremely physical on the other end.
Yes.
And it can feel like, wait, they're getting all the calls and we don't get any. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is no different than Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, all the great scorers in our league, they hunt contact and they get it, and the officials give it to them. I don't think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is any more overt about it than anybody else is. He's just really good at it. And he's also a guy, he's really, if you watch him play, he kind of moves almost like a human slinky at times. Like he is, able to kind of contort himself into these places and, get into all these shapes that we're not you don't expect him to be in. But yeah, he is a, special player. And it's one of those things where, I get it. I get why it's, annoying to folks. But, again, I just mentioned, I grew up on the Michael Jordan era, and it was everybody, my entire life was like, oh, God, Jordan, all they do is give him every call under the sun and all these things. It's just kind of what it is with every great scorer ever.
All right, so that's really what it is then. It's no different than when you and I were younger watching Bird, Jordan, or Magic get contact all the time. It's the same thing.
I don't think it's that different. The only difference is what is different now is back then when somebody would get tired of it, they'd drop them and drop them hard and then probably stand over them and tell them, there's your foul. We don't really get that anymore. I think everybody collectively in the NBA has realized, hey, you know what? We're all making an awful lot of money. Let's all continue to make an awful lot of money and not play this way anymore.
All right. Do you think Oklahoma City will win the championship again?
Yeah, I do. I think it's been a long time since we've got a repeat champion, but I think that's going to break. I just think the Spurs have shown at times I don't mean to say this in a super negative way, but maybe they're not quite ready yet.
Yeah.
So that's going to take a little bit. So, yeah, I do think the Thunder are going to win the title again.
Well, and I don't even think that's disrespectful, Keith. I mean, in my lifetime, in your lifetime, there has never been a team to come up out of nowhere with no playoff experience and win a championship, right? It's almost like you have to go through that refining fire of the postseason for a period of time before you learn how to win.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. You go through. I mean, the Thunder are the best example right now. The Thunder got into the playoffs. They took their lumps a couple times, and then they kind of grew into what they grew into.
Yep.
Warriors had the same kind of thing. That is definitely true. You get in there because the playoffs are completely different. When you play in the same team 4 to 7 times in a 2-week period, it just is very, very different, and the game is more physical. It's contested a lot harder. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they're going to learn, and I think that, the Thunder get this one. Then after that, I call Wemby the destroyer of worlds. He's coming for everybody, and good luck figuring it out.
Dude, you know what's scary about him? What's going to happen when he actually develops a few offensive moves like that Bird fadeaway or he gets comfortable with certain things that are unstoppable? Like, can you imagine how scary he's going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be ridiculous. And I also think, too, I mean, there's another level he can go on defense because he self-admits he's like there are times when it's still on instinct and athleticism, which, I mean, you get him 5, 6, 7 years deep into his career, and it's going to be now he's seen it all. Like, good luck, doing anything. I mean, he is as unique of a talent as I can ever remember coming into the NBA, and let's hope he stays healthy and is here for a good long time.
All right, Keith Smith from Spot Track and the Front Office Show here on the Rip City Drive. Hey, Keith, keep up the great work, my friend. Enjoy the games, and we'll talk to you in the future.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. There's Keith Smith. So he thinks the Blazers could possibly look to be in the mix to go big game hunting, which I like the sound of that. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Wherever you may be on this Wednesday, I hope it's a good day for you. That was a good conversation with Keith. He helped to calm me down a little bit because I was irritated when I came in with all the nonsense going on around me. I don't hear the jackhammer, or I haven't heard it for like the last 10 minutes, so that's a good sign. All right, 503-248-0620. You can jump on board. Anything you want to talk about is fine with me. And I agree with Keith. I think Oklahoma City is going to go back-to-back and win another championship. And the Spurs will get there. It's just a matter of time. And that's annoying because I'm very jealous of the Spurs. But once Wembanyama figures it out offensively, and he's got a couple of go-to moves that are unstoppable, like the Jordan fadeaway, and he understands, and the game slows down to where he's seeing things even better, he's going to be unstoppable. All right, you got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. their physicality defensively and what they get away City Thunder play, their physicality defensively and what they get away with on that end of the floor. And then we see the easy whistles that come in favor of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I guess I really don't have too big of an issue with it because this stuff's been going on for a long time. And if I'm being honest, it was the same way back in the day when I grew up watching the stars that I love, the best of the best. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, they all got calls. And they were all great at getting contact, getting to the foul line, and then also got the benefit of the doubt from the officials. That's really what it comes down to. And that's the way it's been ever since I was a kid, that if you are a star player and you've proven yourself in the league over an extended period of time, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. And I think what also helps as a team, not so much as an individual, that if you're aggressive and very physical in the way you play on a nightly basis, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt under those circumstances too. It always goes back to what the snapper, Steve Jones, would say. The team that is the aggressor is going to be rewarded in most cases by the officials. And that's true. So if you go out early and set the tone and you continue to play night after night, aggressive, physical, that brand of basketball, the officials are going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And in the end, you'll get away with a little bit more. So while I would like to see guys not flop as much because it is a bit soft for my liking, at the same time, if I'm a fan of a team, I'm upset if my stars aren't crafty in getting to the foul line. And Denny Avdia is the same way. He gets to the foul line a ton because he's perfected that gather move. And there are players who complain about him after games. We've seen it now multiple times over the last few weeks. But that's really part of the craft. Or as Michael Holton would always say, getting to the foul line is a skill. And some guys are better at it than others. So, but it's the same. And the game hasn't changed much. The stars, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander today, we're getting the same type of calls back in the late 80s and early 90s, you know, when I was formed or forged as a basketball fan. The stars always get the preferential treatment. They always get the benefit of the doubt. And rarely do you see a star player get punked at the end of a game in a big moment by the officials. It doesn't happen too often. But as a man, I am opposed to guys who flop excessively. I just don't like it. It's not my style. And that's why we didn't like the European players, the Euros that would come over back in the day, because they were considered soft and they flopped around. And now they've infiltrated the game and everyone's doing it. And some guys are really good at it, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But the Thunder, with or without the nonsense, they're going to win the championship again. That's how good they are. And I think it's a good thing to look at. You know, for the Blazers, they play that first-round series against the Spurs. Good. Take a look around, see what you're up against, see what it takes to be able to compete at a higher level, learn from that, and continue to go into the gym and work on getting better. And that means you've got to be able to compete at a high level on both ends of the floor. You've got to be better defensively. You've got to be more diverse offensively. And, you know, the Blazers will hopefully accomplish that through internal development and also being able to go out and add some things to the roster, which, if they're going to do, would have to come via trade. If something big is going to come down the pipeline for the Blazers, it'll come via trade. It's that simple. So 2 games tonight that are on the NBA schedule. The first one's coming up at 4 o'clock. And I was really excited about this game until we got word that Joel Embiid was out. He's not going to play tonight. He's still banged up coming out of that last series with the Celtics. The Knicks throttled Philadelphia in Game 1 a couple of nights ago. Philly was coming off the Game 7 against Boston Saturday. Short rest. They traveled to New York, and the Knicks, who are on fire, just absolutely obliterated them. And a lot of times what you see in the NBA playoffs is that, zigzag theory, where a team will come out, be dominant in one game, and then you see the bounce back from the other team in the second game. The problem is without Embiid and that consistent threat down low and the way he's able to get, bigs into foul trouble, I just don't know if the Sixers are going to have enough to be able to get the job done tonight. Really impressed with the way the Knicks are playing right now. And Mike Brown's done a good job over the last few games of getting Cat more involved in the offensive end, being a facilitator. They did a great job of rotating the Philadelphia defense in game number 1, and then they hit the 3 ball at a ridiculous rate. And when they're hitting threes, like any team in the NBA, they're very tough to beat. And I've got a lot of respect. I like watching Jalen Brunson play basketball. I like smaller guys, undersized guys who, through their hard work, their toughness, and their footwork, just have an ability to get to their spot and understand the angles to get their shot up. And Jalen Brunson is a crafty offensive player. Really good. He's great off the bounce. He's great with the pull-up threes. He can attack the rim. He's fearless. Jalen Brunson's kind of the heart and soul of that group. But they got a lot of players I enjoy watching play. And Karl Anthony Towns has developed into a lethal three-point shooter. Like, you can't leave him alone. You got to respect his game. Very good passer. And he did a great job in game number one of attacking Embiid. Embiid's got issues being able to move at a high rate right now. And so defensively, you can catch him flat-footed. I thought Karl Anthony Towns was terrific. And then I love their wings like anyone else. OG Anunoby, a great defender, great two-way player, and Mikal Bridges. Both really long, very athletic, and just the way that group works together. And Josh Hart, a tough guy, plays Knicks. They're not good enough to beat the Thunder in the NBA Finals, but they're good enough to get out of the Eastern Knicks. They're not good enough to beat the Thunder in the NBA Finals, but they're good enough to get out of the Eastern Conference now with no Boston. Detroit was very effective in game one against the Cavs. We'll see what Cleveland can do in game two tomorrow. But right now, New York, I would think, is the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. And we're going to get that showdown. When the playoffs began, there were a couple of series I had to see with my own eyes. And we're going to get a couple of them. I think San Antonio, Oklahoma City would be awesome. I think San Antonio is going to come back and win that series. But I do think that they're in a bit of a pickle right now. No playoff experience, and they're up against a team that has been there and done that, who has been to the Western Conference Finals, back-to-back years, and they defend extremely well, and they've got some long athletic bigs who can give Wemby some issues. I just like Minnesota because they're tough and they're willing to defend, and they get after you. And that was a gutsy win they had in game one against the Spurs. So we'll see. I think San Antonio will respond, but one thing for certain, it looks like it's going to be a long series now. So we're going to get probably the Thunder and the Spurs. I wanted to see the Thunder and the Nuggets, but Denver blew it because they stunk up the joint in round number one. And I obviously wanted a rematch of the Knicks and Pistons. Like, that's some old school playoff basketball right there. Two teams that have a rivalry, and you got some tough players on both sides. Like, that'll be a fun series. So I'm hoping we get Pistons, Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. And if we get Spurs Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, that's a great matchup as well. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive, I appreciate your time. 503-248-0620. You can jump on board if you got any thoughts. Let me know what's on your mind. And you can find me on social at Chad and Rip City. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Hey, what's going on, my friends? NBA playoffs continue tonight. In a few minutes from Madison Square Garden in New York City, the Sixers and Knicks. Joel Embiid is out, and as a result, the Knicks are now a 10.5-point favorite. They blew out the Sixers in Game 1 and lead that series 1-0. At 6:30, Timberwolves and Spurs Game 2 from San Antonio. Spurs are favored by City, took out the Lakers last night in Game 1 of their series, and L.A. still uncertain of when Oklahoma City took out the Lakers last night in Game 1 of their series. And L.A. still uncertain of when Luka Doncic will make his return to the lineup. Game 2 tomorrow night in OKC. Checking the Major League scoreboard right now, the Seattle Mariners in some home matinee action today taking on the Atlanta Braves. And they get the win by a final of 3-1. Dodgers over the Astros 12-2. And the Padres take out the Giants in San Francisco 5-1. All right, East Coast Earl, who is a great friend and part of the culinary school over at Clark College. I love East Coast Earl. He's just a great guy. And he's an obnoxious New York sports fan, which makes him even better. The Jets, Jets, and, of course, the New York Knicks. He says, that's right, New York basketball, baby. Too bad Mr. Glass isn't playing tonight. If the Pacers can take OKC to 7 games, the Knicks can beat them if fully healthy. Well, that's the biggest problem. You know the thing I have with some of these stars in today's game? Like Joel Embiid is a great player, and he caused havoc for the Celtics in round number 1 when he returned to the series. But again, it's hard for me to take you seriously as one of the game's greats when you're rarely available. And that's the big issue. Like the Knicks core, they've played over 900 games together. I mean, they've been on the floor for over 900 minutes, meaning they have an understanding of where they're going to be and what they're going to do. The Sixers core, because they're rarely available, we're talking about just over 300 minutes together. You got to be able to play. You got to be available. And Embiid's rarely available. And what good can you be to your team as a superstar if you're not available in the most important moments? And tonight would be a good example. They're facing a 2-0 deficit if they don't get the win. They need this game tonight if they're going to make a series of it. And now, in a game of this magnitude, Embiid's not going to be available. So that's a problem. And that's the issue with a lot of stars in the NBA now. And it's a big issue for, Adam Silver moving forward. Because that game, let me just give an example of what I'm talking about. Like, we all get frustrated when we go to an NBA arena and we find out a star is not going to play. And we're like, hey, what's going on here? He's not going to be available? Well, like tonight's game, I was really excited about the Knicks and Sixers tonight because it's one of the more compelling series that we have here in the semifinals. But once I got word earlier today that Embiid was going to be out, like my interest in the game dropped significantly. And I hate that. I want the best of the best to be available. And even with Wemby in the first round, like I wasn't heartbroken that he got knocked out and wasn't going to be available in game number 3. But also at the same time, I don't want star players not to be available. I want to see the best teams with the best players going head-to-head. So the question is, if Embiid doesn't go tonight and he's already out, will he be available for Game 3? And if so, how effective is he going to be? Because I'll tell you one thing right now, the Knicks are clicking on all cylinders. The way they're moving the basketball, they're using their actions. They were rotating the Philly defense in Game number 1. They just annihilated them. They've got a very likable group. Mikal Bridges is super cool and tough, and he's versatile. OG Anunoby is one of the best defenders in the game. He's versatile. Jalen Brunson is just tough and a tremendous scorer. And then they got some role players like Josh Hart and others who will step up and sacrifice their bodies and their game to help the team win. So they're a very likable group right now. And in terms of just atmospheres, I got to give it up to the New York fans. Madison Square Garden right now is electric for playoff games. So there you have it. And East Coast Earl, most New York fans are annoying. East Coast Earl is a very cool guy. So I want good things to happen for him because I know how much he loves the Knicks. So of the teams that are remaining, as you know, I'm not a LeBron fan, so I want to see the Lakers get smoked by OKC. He drives me crazy. I'm not necessarily a fan of Oklahoma City, but I respect how good they are, and I think they're going to go back-to-back. Not a Philly fan. I'm not a fan of Philadelphia or any Philadelphia sports fan because they're all insane. I do like Tyrese Maxey, though. That guy's a baller. So quick with the basketball in his hands. Very shifty. He had a big Game 7 against Boston. And then, you've got the other teams. Minnesota. My two favorite teams remaining right now, Minnesota and New York. The togetherness and the toughness of both those teams is very nice. And San Antonio, I don't think they're going to win the championship this year, but they're not far away. And as good as Wemby is right now, and he's really good, what do you have, 12 blocks in game 1? 12? Just wait until that guy figures it out on offense because he hasn't refined his offensive skills yet, and it's going to come. And I've seen this with all the great players over the course of time, like Michael Jordan, who is just tremendous. Like early in his career, he would use his athleticism and his vertical jump. He would attack the rim, and he was relentless. Great in transition, attack the rim. But as time went on, he realized he had to adapt and change as he got older. So he became a legitimate low-post threat and became unstoppable with that fadeaway jumper. Like it was his go-to, and it was unstoppable. Magic Johnson, as time went on, he improved his outside shooting, became a lethal free throw shooter, and then developed a little baby hook shot and had an array of offensive moves on the block. Larry Bird, like MJ, had that fadeaway, which was unstoppable. And as he aged and got older in the game, he just learned to put more air under the basketball. He would rainbow those bad boys in. So all great players tend to adapt and adjust and get better with time. And that's probably going to happen with Wemby. And when it does happen and he develops those go-to moves, he'll be unstoppable. He's already unstoppable with his defense, but wait till he gets it figured out on offense. And there were times, it even happened the other night where he's just like, screw it. And he just one bounce, a couple of long strides, and he's right at the rim throwing it down. It's like, where'd that come from? And we'll see. He's light on his feet because, he's, 7'4", 7'5", and he doesn't weigh a ton. Very slender body, but he's very athletic. But he'll continue to get stronger, too. So we shall see. But, yeah, New York, great atmosphere right now. Madison Square Garden's awesome. And the Knicks, they play with the style that can ignite the crowd. And they won that game 1 by 39 points. And that game was over right shortly after tip-off. And now tonight we'll see what the Sixers got. No Embiid. They're going to have to get a big night from Maxey. Maxey's going to have to go off. He's the one guy where the Knicks really don't have an answer for Maxey and his speed because his quickness and his ability to get to his spots and get his shot up. Like Maxey's he's a big-time player. I like watching him ball. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. All right, so Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report, he's put out a really big piece, and I'm going to save this for here. I'll get back to it here in about 5 minutes or so. He put together a report on the status of the wide net the Blazers are casting for their coaching search. And I keep getting these messages, and I think a lot of it's these erroneous reports that pop up on Facebook. Like even my dad called me a couple of weeks ago. He's like, "Oh, is Bo Nix, is he going to play football again?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I saw some report that, he was out and he might retire." And it was some erroneous report that popped up on Facebook. And I've seen a couple of those with Tiago Splitter and the Trailblazers. Tiago Splitter has not been let go. The Blazers have not made a decision on their head coaching position. They're going to go through a coaching search, as Joe Cronin indicated in the exit interviews. And so what that means is that Tiago Splitter is absolutely a candidate, but the Blazers want to do their due diligence and go through a process of talking to many candidates. And then through that, they can take a look at the different guys that are, considered acceptable for the job. And then you pick the best choice, the best possible candidate, and you go on from there. And I do think Tiago Splitter is probably the leader in the clubhouse right now. I mean, what I like about the Tiago experience this year is that he's young and obviously he needs to improve and get better. He knows that. But anything you might want throughout the course of a season to evaluate a coach on, Tiago Splitter experienced everything, literally. He was brought in as an assistant. His boss, Chauncey Billups, got arrested by the FBI after game one. That's pretty wild. And then you're thrown in as the acting head coach. So right away, you learn something about the man in terms of how he deals with adversity. We saw over the course of the season where the team started to take on Tiago's personality, which is a good thing. We also saw that Tiago Splitter was good and very in tune with adapting to change. And there was multiple changes throughout the year with all the injuries the team suffered. And then you're dealing with an ownership change. Like all of these different variables that popped up, Tiago had a response, an answer. And then you had great success. But most importantly, and my most important evaluation of a coach in the NBA is, can they get these players to play hard for them? And if you can, and he did, then you're on the move. You're moving in the right direction. You've got to get these NBA guys to do things they don't want to do to play hard for you. And usually that comes through communication. By sitting down with your guys, explaining to them why you need them to perform a certain role on the team and why that's going to not only be good for the team, but also for them as individuals. And the best coaches can do that. And I've used the example a billion times, but I always go back to that. I think the perfect example of what I'm trying to explain is Steve Kerr with Andre Iguodala shortly after Kerr took over. Iguodala was hurt. They put Draymond Green in the starting lineup to begin the year. And then Kerr realized that Draymond Green was meant to be in the starting lineup, and he liked the way that group was mixed together. So he went to Iguodala when he was healthy and ready to come back and said, hey, I know you're a bona fide star in the league. You're a legitimate starter, but for this team, I need you to come off the bench and be the captain of that second unit. And if you do that and commit to it, it's going to be better for you individually. And sure enough, it was. What happened? Well, he won the Finals MVP, Iguodala did. And they got a championship. And that was getting someone else to buy into a role that they were unaccustomed to. So that's really what it comes down to as an NBA head coach. Do the players respect you? Are they willing to play hard for you? The starting lineup for Philly, they're going to have a smaller unit out on the floor tonight. They're showing the starting lineups right now on TV. And maybe that will help them defensively to be able to guard and defend the Knicks' actions because they struggle with that with Embiid on the floor. And that's why their defense was getting rotated. So we'll see how Philly responds tonight. All right, 503-248-0620. When we come back, I'll dive into this report by Sean Highkin. Going to get the job. All right, Knicks and Sixers about to tip off from Madison Square Garden. Now he's going to get the job. All right, Knicks and Sixers about to tip off from Madison Square Garden. And then coming up at 6:30, we will get Spurs Timberwolves from San Antonio game number 2. Minnesota with a 1-0 lead in the playoffs. The other thing, too, the NBA needs to get away from, stop staggering games in the playoffs to where we have to choose between one game or the other. I don't understand why they do that on a night when you got 2 games. Just separate them by about 2.5 hours so we can watch both games in their entirety without having to go back and forth. All right, we'll dive into that report next on Tiago Splitter and the wide net the Blazers are casting for their coaching search. I do appreciate you and your time on this Wednesday. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, 9:22 to play in the first. Philadelphia on top of New York, 7-5. I reached out to Alex Brink today, former Cougar, wanted to talk some football with him. He's like, dude, I'm at Bandon Dunes right now. Just had my first hole-in-one. That's awesome. That is awesome. Nice work, Alex Brink. So we'll get him on next week to talk about that. Always got to hear about your first hole-in-one experience. What a feeling that is. 7-5, Philadelphia on top. They've got stoppage for a review on a foul to see if there was a hostile act. And I believe Kelly Oubre is involved. No Mitchell Robinson tonight for the Knicks. That's probably a good thing because now we don't have to worry about hack a Mitchell Robinson. He's one of those guys that cannot make free throws. And you foul him and put him at the line, he's guaranteed to miss. Unbelievable. Andre Drummond just completely flopped. See, this is what I'm talking about. I understand why guys do it, but Andre Drummond's one of the toughest, strongest dudes in the NBA. I'm not sure he should be falling over like a ton of bricks. Come on, Andre. It's a big, strong man right there. Andre Drummond does not need to subject himself to that type of activity. It's like, come on, man, be a man. I know you might have gotten nicked in the face by Towns, but you don't have to fall down like that. Come on, man. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. All right, so the coaching search, I just want to read a couple of lines from the report from Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider. This is up now at Rose Garden Report. You know, the Blazers, as indicated by Joe Cronin at the exit interviews, they're casting a, quote, wide net for their next head coach. Now, it doesn't mean that Tiago Splitter is not going to get the job. It doesn't mean that Tiago Splitter is not a candidate. Cronin indicated that he absolutely is. It just means that the Blazers want to do their due diligence before they hire a coach. So Highkin writes, Splitter, for his part, called the recent speculation about his job status, quote, clickbait, and said he has good relationships with both Cronin and Dundon. He spoke openly about the challenges of his first season as a head coach and of things he wished he could have done differently in the playoffs. The list of candidates for the Blazers could talk to in addition to Splitter could be very long and varied. The names they've already known to have kicked the tires on are mostly mid-level college coaches. John Schertz from St. Louis, and NBA assistants with no head coaching experience. Houston's Royal Ivey and Denver's Jared Dudley. Most of the big-name coaches that could have been in the pool, like Taylor Jenkins and Michael Malone, have already taken other jobs. Between the proven track record of navigating difficult circumstances and on-the-record support up and down the roster, any candidate they interview is going to have a tough task competing with the argument that Splitter is the right person for the job. Billups' status hovers over all of this. Cronin declined to answer multiple questions about his embattled head coach on Thursday due to the ongoing legal process with the gambling investigation. Quote, I just can't comment at this point. We'll update you when we can. That's Joe Cronin at the exit interviews. Presumably, when we can means whenever there's a legal resolution to Billups' case, be it at a trial or in an agreement ahead of time. As of now, the trial for Billups and the other 30 defendants in the case of the alleged rigged underground poker games is scheduled to begin in New York on November 2nd. Billups is facing charges of wire fraud conspiracy and money laundering conspiracy and is accused of serving as a, quote, face card and using his celebrity to draw high-dollar poker players into games they didn't know were fixed against them. He pled not guilty to both charges last fall, and his lawyer released a statement at the day of his arrest that they plan to fight the allegations and clear his name. Like that line right there that I just wrote is still unbelievable to me. He is accused of serving as a, quote, face card and using his celebrity to draw high-dollar poker players into games they didn't know were fixed against them. Okay. That's crazy. Like, that's Hollywood stuff right there. In addition, he says Billups is also implicated, though not by name, in a separate case involving sports betting, a case that also saw an active NBA player, Terry Rozier, and another former player and coach, Damon Jones, arrested and charged. That case involves an unnamed, quote, co-conspirator number 8 with biographical details that exactly match those of Billups, who was accused of tipping off one of the defendants that the Blazers were going to sit Dame and Yusuf to tank a March 2023 game before that information became public, followed by that person placing a large bet on the Blazers to lose the game. So there you have it. He also said the salary of the Blazers' next head coach has been a major talking point in recent weeks. Early word has been that Dundon doesn't want to pay a premium for a coach. It's been widely reported both here and elsewhere that in his initial conversations with college and international head coaches and NBA assistants, Dundon was floating a salary between $1 and $1.5 million, which is well below the standard pay scale for an NBA head coach and lower than even many mid-tier college coaches and what they're making. At his exit interviews last week, Cronin pushed back against the idea that money would be an obstacle for Dundon in the coaching search. Quote, according to Cronin, "We're going to pay the coach based on some sort of level of shared risk. If it's a first-time coach that has a lot of risk and doesn't have a market that we have to compete in, it'll be one number. If we're talking about a coach that's a 15-year vet and a future Hall of Famer, it's going to be a completely different number. And Tom isn't going to flinch at either of those scenarios. We're going to be very open-minded to what types of people we interview and potentially bring in. I'm not concerned about the number at all." Okay, there you go. So I have been told, the one thing that I have a hard time believing is that Tom Dundon offered the head coaching job to somebody for $1 to $1.5 million. I just don't believe it. And I've had people tell me that that is the case, that according to their reporting, that is what was offered, but I don't buy it. And the reason why is because Tom Dundon, he's not a fool. No coach is going to take an NBA job for $1 million a year. The Coaches Association isn't going to allow that, and no one's going to do that. You can get a job somewhere else as an assistant or a college coach and make many times over $1 million a year. So I just find it very hard to believe that he would offer the job for $1 million. No one's taking that. And I don't believe Dundon is that much of a fool to offer the job for that type of price. I mean, so come on, let's be real here. So again, going back to it, I think the search is the right idea. Do I think that Tiago Splitter is deserving? Yes. Do I think he proved that he can be a long-term coach in the NBA? Yes. And with all the different things he dealt with and the success the Blazers had this year, I walked away very impressed with Tiago Splitter, knowing that was only year number one and he's going to have a chance to get a lot better. Now, when Keith Smith joined us earlier on the show today, he said that he's heard nothing but praise around the league for Tiago Splitter and the work that he's done. And I go back to when Tiago Splitter was initially named the acting head coach. The people I had talked to at the time said that the reputation or talk around the league when he was named acting head coach was that many believed he had a chance to be a coaching star. So I think Tiago Splitter's got the makeup of being a productive and successful NBA head coach. I think what you have to have an ability to do, much like with players, you look at the numbers, you look at where they're at when they're young, and you've got to be able to project out in terms of knowing what they're going to become or to have an idea of what that player is going to turn into. I think coaches are the same way. If you have a guy like Tiago Splitter who dealt with mass adversity coming off of year number one, what's the formula for being able to look at what he's done thus far, knowing that he's going to get better and where he can lead them in the future? What type of coach will he become? I think that's the ultimate question. And again, the reason why you want to talk to as many people as possible is because you're going to learn a lot through the intel on your own team, your own coaching staff, your players, how other coaches view your situation in Portland. That could be a very good learning process for Tom Dundon to gather information. And then in the end, if you name Tiago Splitter head coach, you strengthen Tiago Splitter's position because you can say, hey, we cast a wide net. We talked to many different candidates around the league. Tiago's the right guy for the job. We talked to 10, 12, 15 candidates, whatever the number is, and we have no doubt now after talking to all those guys that Tiago's the man. I think it makes him more legitimate. It strengthens his position. But again, all I've talked about is like, yes, do I like Tiago? Absolutely. Would I like it if he became head coach? Yes. But I think the job is hire the right guy, hire the best coach. Whoever that is, just find that guy and hire him. Hire the one that you believe is the absolute best for the job. Now, if you're hiring a guy because he's willing to take less and you can save a couple of bucks, that's the wrong reason to hire that guy. But if Dundon truly is, according to Cronin, willing to pay whatever number based on the experience the coach has, then just find the best coach that you believe is there to lead your team into the future. If it's Tiago Splitter, hire him. If it's somebody else, hire that guy. Just find the best coach. That's really all that matters. And if they go through that process and find that guy, and they didn't do it just because they're trying to save a couple of bucks, I'm all on board with that. I don't think you just give a job to a guy just to give him the job. I think you owe it to yourself to go through a full search. It's the same thing that the Blazers did when they hired Joe Cronin. I love Joe Cronin, and I think he's done a tremendous job, but there was no real search that was in place. I thought that was a disservice to Joe. Go out and interview and talk to multiple candidates for the position of general manager and someone to lead your basketball operations. And you're going to learn a lot through the process about your team, about your roster, how other people view the situation here in Portland. And then in the end, you come back and it's like, hey, Joe's the guy. It strengthens, Cronin's position, and you learn a lot throughout the course of the process. But at that time, Burke Cold and the people who were in charge chose to do it a different way. I'm just a big believer in talking to as many qualified candidates as you possibly can. And if you go about it that way, I think you're going to be in a good position. First quarter midway through, Philadelphia on top of the Knicks, 17-15. And again, no Joel Embiid tonight. We're going to get Minnesota and San Antonio coming up at 6:30. That game one between the Spurs and Timberwolves was very compelling. I'm still impressed with Anthony Edwards, the way that, is that right? Yeah, Ant Edwards, the way he was able to play and be productive. And it looked like he got stronger or more comfortable with the knee as the game went along, and just the confidence in which he played with and how he hit some big shots down the stretch. I thought Julius Randle was terrific. I like Randle a lot. He's tough. He reminds me a little bit of Zach Randolph, but the physicality he brings to the table is really nice. I like guys that are tough and physical and fearless. And they talked to Jaden McDaniels after the game, and they said, what's the approach when you know that you've got Victor Wembanyama down there? And again, that's coming off a game where he had 12 blocks. And McDaniels is like, well, I mean, he's going to get his. He's like the tallest guy on the planet. You just have to go in and not even think about it. And I love that, man. It's like, dude, don't even worry about it. Just go in and attack. He's going to block some shots, yes, but we have to continue to be aggressive and attack because we're going to win some of those battles too. Like, that's the right mindset. Don't think too much or get soft in your approach, or he's just going to reject more. Now, Wembanyama is a terrific shot blocker. And there were probably multiple shots that were goaltending. It's going to be interesting because Minnesota and their coach, Chris Finch, he complained about that after the game. It's going to be interesting to see how the officiating adjusts and whether or not they take a closer look at some of those blocks to see if they are indeed goaltending. But he's so quick and he gets up so fast and he's so long that he makes it look easy. Man, Wembanyama's tough. And it's hard, man. When you're an offensive player and you're trying to attack and get into the paint and you want to get your shots up, I mean, just knowing that he's around and you feel his presence, think about how many shots that changes. So he had 12 blocks, but how many shots did he change that didn't go down on the box score as blocks, but they ended up as misses because of his presence? That's really the key number. 12 blocks plus whatever number of shots he changed that resulted in misses because of his presence being there. And Wembanyama's shown me a little bit too. He's shown some toughness. He only missed one game after the concussion against Portland. Guys are trying to be physical with him. Like, I like the way he's responding. He's showing me some character there. Wembanyama's a tough player, and he attacks the rim fearlessly as well. So I kind of like that, man. We're seeing some teams, as we get deeper into the playoffs, we're starting to see some of their toughness and the physicality. Oklahoma City's that way. Even with the flopping, they're still a physical team that likes to be aggressive. The Knicks are clearly that type of team, with that Villanova vein and the way they like to play. And they're long and athletic and strong. Philadelphia showed a lot of toughness in that, first-round series coming back down 3-1 against Boston. San Antonio and Minnesota both tough. Like, I like all that. All right, 19-18 Philly with a 1-point lead. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday afternoon. I'm feeling pretty good now. The noise has subsided. They've got the carpet laid down, which is nice. We got a new carpet smell here. They're renovating the entire building. and they're getting close to being done. And thank goodness for that. They've gotten everything painted. The carpet's being laid down. Less noise over the last hour. Once they're done, it's going to look great. All right, there you go. 503-248-0620. So to summarize, Tiago Splitter is definitely in a position to get the job, but the Blazers are going to go through a coaching search before they determine who they're going to hire. And we'll see. And I think it's important to keep a clear mind, too. I think a lot of the reporting on Dundon, not necessarily accurate, but it's floating around out there. It's been weird because I haven't seen a guy take over a team and have a bad run of like 2 to 3 straight weeks of just negative press. But, let's wait until some decisions are made before we get an idea of what it's all about. And I think we'll learn a lot through this coaching search on Dundon and his mindset. The one thing we know is that he wants to win. We see that with his hockey club, the Hurricanes. He wants to win. And I don't think when it comes to the roster or when it comes to the coach that he's going to spare expense if he wants to bring in a guy that he truly believes is the best for his team to be in the right position to be able to win games. That's just the way I see it. That wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. Why would you hire a guy to be your coach so you can save a couple of pennies, but your team is going to suffer because of it? And you and I both know that if the Blazers have the right coach and they're winning basketball games, people are going to show up. Winning solves everything. And if you win, people are going to show up, they're going to spend their money, and you're going to have a success. And that's really what it's all about. So, we shall see. But outside of that, the problem is with the playoffs right now, too. Like the Lakers-Thunder series, it's a mismatch. Thunder are going to run away with that in 4 or 5 games. Detroit and Cleveland is just like a yawn fest. Like, I want Detroit and New York, but I just don't care about Cleveland and Detroit. Like, that doesn't excite me. Sixers, Knicks, yes. But Embiid's not playing tonight. And then this Minnesota-San Antonio series, which I thought was a mismatch, is quickly becoming what appears to be a heck of a matchup. I just can't believe Minnesota went in there and got game 1. And they did so with a depleted roster. No DiVincenzo. Guys are banged up. Anthony Edwards, not 100%. Like, that's an impressive win to me. And what I'm really interested now moving forward is how does San Antonio respond with their lack of playoff experience? Are they able to respond? Will they bounce back tonight? Are they going to struggle tonight? And how are they going to handle that environment on the road? Because, part of, the Spurs, they were able to get through Portland, relatively easily in 5 games. So this is their first dose of playoff adversity. How do they respond? How does Wemby respond? How do the young guards respond? Are they going to have to lean more on De'Aaron Fox, who's got some playoff experience? We're going to find out. All right. And Timberwolves. All right, we'll keep things rolling. You got the Rip City Drive right here in your home of the... And Timberwolves. All right, we'll keep things rolling. You got the Rip City Drive right here in your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, I mentioned Jay McDaniels, who's playing some great basketball right now for Minnesota, and he was dynamic in that first round series against Denver, calling him out and then backing it up with his play and his defense. He was awesome. Well, here is that comment after game number 1 in regard to how you play against Victor Wembanyama, who, keep in mind, had 12 blocks in game number 1. McDaniels kept it very simple.
What did you guys learn about attacking the rim, staying aggressive, attacking the rim, but navigating Wembanyama?
I mean, you just gotta act like he's not there. I mean, he's gonna get blocks. Like, he's the tallest person in the world. Like, he's gonna get blocked. So just keep consistently attacking him. And sometimes he might not be there. Sometimes he might catch you, but just keep going.
There you go. He's the tallest guy in the world. He's going to get blocks. You just have to continue to attack. Love that so much. I was looking at the Oregon Ducks football schedule coming up this year. I'm always trying to eye or find different road trips. Now, the obvious game on their schedule that you want to go to is Ohio State. I have not been to the Horseshoe. I have not seen a game there. That would obviously be a phenomenal trip. But I think there are a couple of underrated stops along the way. I think the Illinois game on October 24th would be a lot of fun. And that looks like a pretty good atmosphere. Underrated. I've heard that Champaign is a pretty sweet place to visit and go watch a game. You know, that atmosphere for the USC game when they upset them last year was awesome. I also like the early game in September at Oklahoma State. Stillwater is a very underrated place to go check out a game. And I'm trying to encourage my dad to go, but as an Oklahoma State grad, he really doesn't want to go because he's like, why would I want to watch Oregon throttle my Cowboys again? I said, well, that's a fair point. But I would say those two games right there. Now, the other game would be USC on the road at the Coliseum. That's another place. I've been by the Coliseum. I've never seen a football game at the Coliseum. And I don't know, is it too big after the renovations? Is it a better atmosphere now? I've never been to a game there, so I can't speak to that. They open up with Boise State on September 5th, travel to Oklahoma State, and then back home to take on Portland State before their first conference game of the year on the road at USC against the Trojans. That's going to be a heck of a football game early in the season. The other road games, as I mentioned, Illinois, Ohio State, and at Michigan State. The Michigan game, which will be home on November 14th, should be pretty awesome. And that was my first trip to Autzen Stadium back in 2003 when Michigan came to town. I was at that game. And that's when I walked away a believer in the atmosphere and the crowd noise at Autzen. That was a great experience. I went with my buddy Steve. The weather was perfect. It was sunny and hot. And then Oregon just exploded out of the gate and held on to get the win. That was a great experience. Oregon got the win over Michigan, and they were like an 8.5-point dog going into that game. What a game that was. So some pretty good games on tap. But at Ohio State, I talked to people that went to the Ohio State game on the road a few years ago that Oregon won. They had a great time. And then, of course, we got the Ohio State game a couple of years ago at Autzen, which was phenomenal. That was like one of the games of the year. So I'm into big college football games, and I'm also into great experiences. And the thing I love most about college football is that, you know, it's not homogenized like the NFL, where most NFL stadiums they're all kind of the same. Like when you go to an NFL game, whether whether I'm in Denver or Arizona or, Seattle, each place is a little bit different, but they also all have kind of their own. The NFL, it's all kind of the same. There's some uniqueness, but not like college football. These college football towns, you go into it, the way they do game day is different than every other place. So the experience at the stadium, the tailgating, I like the whole setup with that. So, we'll see. I was talking to my buddy Daniel, big Duck fan. I think he's eyeing the Ohio State game. So we'll see. But football season, hard to believe, but it's going to be right around the corner. Oh, and speaking of that, too, Bo Nix put out a picture of his ankle on social media a couple of days ago. And I don't need to see that kind of stuff, to be honest with you. I don't want to know that my quarterback, I just want to know that he's on the pathway to recovery. I don't need to see pictures with the scars or anything like that. I'm not into that kind of stuff. And I don't like the idea of my quarterback being reopened either for a cleanup procedure coming off the ankle surgery. But my biggest hope this year, Denver plays a game at Arizona against the Cardinal. So I'm hoping that game is scheduled on a weekend when Arizona State's going to be playing a home game. And then we got something to cook with right there. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number if you want to jump on board. When does the NFL schedule get released? Let's go to Rabbi Google right now. All right, so we're looking at next week. So either on Tuesday the 12th, it's probably going to be Thursday the 14th, but sometime 12th, 13th, or 14th of next week. We'll get the entire schedule, and then we'll know who's going to play where. We also know that the Seahawks are going to host a season opener on Wednesday, September 9th, 2026. 9 international games are scheduled, including one in Australia and another in Brazil. While exact dates are pending, all team home and away opponents for 2026 are already known. So those are already out. But it looks like the target release date will be somewhere between the 12th and 14th of next week. So there you have it. And then we can start planning all of our football trips. And it's pretty cool as a Bronco fan because I know the Broncos are going to be in contention next year, assuming Bo's ankle is okay, which it's supposed to be. But they said everything was, going fine and dandy, and then all of a sudden he had a cleanup procedure on his ankle. Whatever. Sometimes you just can't believe what the teams say. They say one thing and do another. You just got to wait for the reports to come out. But hopefully Bo's going to be okay. All right, they've ended the first quarter of play. Sixers on top of the Knicks, 33-31. Paul George early with 11 points, and Karl Anthony Towns has 7 for the Knicks. So Philadelphia in not a must-win situation, but, with the health of Embiid being uncertain, you definitely want to grab this game before you go back home to Philadelphia. And everyone expects the Spurs to win tonight, but I want to know how they're going to respond. Under pressure, and the Timberwolves, if they come out with the right mindset, with the Spurs already down 1-0 and playing their second game at home, like if they're able to keep that game close going into halftime, if you're in the third quarter and the Spurs are still having issues trying to figure out how to attack Minnesota, that's where I think the pressure would really rise. So for the Spurs, it's going to be important for them to get off to a fast start, build a big lead, and just put any doubt about game number 2 away quickly. But if they come out slow and Minnesota is able to get on top again, I think you're going to see the young guys start to press. So I like San Antonio to get the win, but this is a dangerous spot for them. And when we talk about playoff experience or lack thereof, these are the type of situations we're talking about. Lose the first game at home. Minnesota's got confidence. They defend really well. They got some guys who can match up fairly well with Wemby. And we'll see how they respond. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive on a Wednesday. Chad Doing with you on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, what's going on, my friends? Now 5 o'clock. Let's take a look at the NBA scoreboard. Right now, first half at Madison Square Garden, Sixers trying to even up their series with the Knicks at 1 game apiece. Right now, Philadelphia on top 41-40 with 9:10 to play in that first half. Later on tonight, 6:30 on ESPN, the Timberwolves are taking on the Spurs, trying to take a 2-0 lead after pulling the upset in game number 1. Right now, San Antonio is favored by 9.5. Joel Embiid tonight is not playing for the Sixers as he continues to deal with hip and knee soreness coming off the series with the Boston Celtics. Elsewhere, Mariners got the win today over the Braves. Russell Wilson says he is weighing offers from the New York Jets and television networks as he decides on his future. Lakers lost last night in Game 1. LA is still uncertain on the status of Luka Doncic as they move forward. All right, this first half, Knicks and Sixers turning into a good one. 45-42, Philly on top with 8 minutes to go first half. They're playing without Embiid and trying to even up that series. Last night, the Lakers got hammered by Oklahoma City. Not a surprise whatsoever. Oklahoma City is the best team in the NBA. They're probably going to win their second straight championship, and the Lakers right now are playing without one of the best players in the world, Luka Doncic. And it's not too often I agree with LeBron. I'm always looking for reasons to take issue with what he has to say. But this is one time where I actually agree with LeBron. Take a listen to this exchange after the game with the reporter. A lot of people are criticizing LeBron, saying he's making excuses. I don't think this is an excuse. I think it's just a fact.
Where do you think the offensive issues are coming from right now? Obviously, that's a great defense.
Issues coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a guy that averaged 37 a game. What did he average, 35 this year? 33 and a half?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you asking?
Okay, well, I'm asking, like you guys...
There's the issues right there. We're playing against the number 1 defensive team in the NBA as far as the ratings and everything. And when you play against great defenses, you have to have guys that can attract multiple defenders on the floor at all time. Even I felt like we had great shots. We got some great shots tonight. We missed them. But when you play against the world champions, having a guy that averages 34, 6 and 8 and 8 and 9, whatever the hell that's special. So we have to be better at finding ways to get to the blender, finding ways to get to the paint. We know they're a paint swarming team, so we have to be better with get into the paint, not turn the ball over, and then shooting with confidence. But I feel like we got some really good looks.
All right, there's LeBron. I agree. Think about any of the best teams right now remaining in the playoffs. Take Jalen Brunson away from the Knicks. They're going to struggle and have issues on offense. Take away Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Thunder. Now, the Thunder, because they're so deep and they have so much young talent, they can probably perform a little bit better without Shai, but they're going to have issues on offense because he is their primary scorer. And it's no different with the Lakers. Luka Doncic, when he's on the floor, his usage rate is incredibly high. He does so many different things, for his team that without him, it's tough. And the Lakers don't have the type of shot makers and scorers, that some of these other teams do. So I understand. I don't think that's LeBron making excuses. He was asked a direct question about the offensive issues, and that's the reality. No Luka. And when Luka's on the floor, he draws so much attention that it opens up the floor for guys like LeBron and Austin Reeves and everybody else. But if you take away, I think it's the two guys are Rui. You take Hachimura and LeBron away from what the Lakers did last night. I think they shot like 29% as a group. That's not good enough. And, it's not a surprise. The Lakers are not a title contender this year, and their roster's flawed to a certain degree. I didn't think they played terrible last night. I just know that when you play the Thunder, like, they make you feel them. And they're very physical, and they do get away with a lot on the defensive end. But they're so versatile in terms of how they can attack you. They got multiple guys who can defend at all three levels. They're a very unique roster. And then on top of that, you got to deal with Shea and try and find different ways to slow him down. It's tough. That's a tough, tough team. And this game between Philly and New York has picked up pace in the second quarter. The two teams are going back and forth, up and down. It's a lot of fun to watch. Helter-skelter basketball right now in New York. And I've been to Madison Square Garden. I went a few years ago for a concert. I've never been there for a basketball game. But I do like the atmosphere for Knicks games at home in the postseason. It's a lot of fun. And basketball fans there, they're serious. But, yeah, for LeBron, I don't disagree with what he said. There are issues there because they need Luka on the floor. The problem is they don't know when he's going to come back. And honestly, like, if you're the Lakers, do you want to bring Luka back? Because more than likely, after tomorrow night's game, they're going to be facing a 2-0 deficit in that series. They're not going to win the series, even if Luka comes back. I just don't know if it's worth it to rush him back on the floor. Unless he's 100%, and in that case, you bring him back. But if he's not, I'm not sure I want Luka out there laboring around. Now, he was able to return to, what do they call that, on-the-court conditioning. He's out there running around, getting some activity in. But he has not been cleared for, like, 5-on-5 scrimmage and participation in practice. I guess you wait and see how the series plays out. And if the Lakers were fortunate enough to advance and pull off the major upset, then, I think we may have a chance to see Luka at some point in the postseason. But, of course, I don't expect that to happen. And that's probably going to be a 4, maybe a 5-game series. And that's not LeBron making excuses. They're just playing a powerhouse. The Thunder are a powerhouse. There's only one team that I think can challenge Oklahoma City. That's probably San Antonio because of the matchup with Wemby. But again, I don't really put any stock in the regular season success that San Antonio had against Oklahoma City because this isn't playoff basketball is different. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't think there's anyone that can beat Oklahoma City. San Antonio this year, no. Definitely not the Lakers. Minnesota, no. And then take your pick on the eastern side. The Knicks and Thunder would be a fun basketball series to watch, but the Knicks, no, I don't think they have enough. The Knicks might, if the Knicks are playing like this, maybe, and scoring well and they're well connected on both ends like we've seen over the last 4 or 5 games, maybe then they could extend the series and make it very compelling. But in the end, I just think Oklahoma City is going to get it done. That's all. And then the Spurs, it's just a matter of time, more than likely, based on, the development of that young roster, some of the players they have, but also Wembanyama and everything he's doing defensively. That's an impressive group. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can reach out and jump on board if you would like. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday afternoon. I did swing by and pick up my new clubs today. I got the new set of Mizunos after getting a club test. I'd had the same group of clubs for about, 7 years. And so I went in and tested them, and it's like, okay, it's time to get new ones. So I'll be able to give those a test tomorrow. All right, let's go out to the phones. North Portland. Let's go talk to Mike. Mike, I appreciate the call. What's on your mind, brother? Fire away.
Chad, it's a beautiful day. Not sure if you know this. My name is Mike. I live in Portland. Firehouse Subs is running a ridiculous promo today. A free sub if your name is Mike.
Really?
So if you have, yes, that's 100% accurate. Any iteration, Mike, Michael, Miguel, Michelle, head on down to Firehouse Subs. So I just want to start the call by saying it is a wonderful day.
But hold on, wait a second, Mike. Mike, why are they running that? What is so special about Michael that Firehouse Subs is running that? What's the tie-in there?
So they officially say, hey, we're launching this new sub. We want everybody to try it. But wouldn't you know that one of their biggest competitors is called Jersey Mike's? That's the only thing I can think of, Chad. I mean, I went in, I got my sub. My name's Michael. They just basically said, show me your ID. And they let me walk out with a sub. So that's the only thing I can think of is they're trying to dig at Jersey Mike's.
Well, Michael Shacker is smiling right now because he's going to head to Firehouse Subs after the show and get a free sandwich. Now, was this like any size? Was it like a foot long, or did you have to go 6-inch, or what was the offer?
It is very specifically their new steak melt. It is a great sandwich, by the way, Shacker. You're going to love it. So I just want to say, today's a great day, Ted.
Well, yeah, you got a free sandwich. Can't beat that.
Nope, it's Star Wars Week 2, baby. It was May the 4th be with you, Revenge of the 5th. And I guess it's also Revenge of the 6th now. I don't know. Star Wars Week, free subs. We got thoughts, Chad. We got thoughts.
Are you excited about the new Mandalorian and Grogu movie?
Oh, my Lord. That movie looks so good. Did you see? I don't know if you're a Disney Plus guy, but they've got an exclusive sneak peek, like brand new unseen footage.
Yep.
That movie's gonna be ridiculous. I cannot wait. They're gonna bring everybody from the Star Wars series in, I'm pretty sure. I am jacked. That's gonna be so good.
Yeah, and I saw the extra footage. It was awesome, and I also know that Bo-Katan is expected to be a part of the movie as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, Bo-Katan, Freeze, Ahsoka, all the hits. Everyone from the series. Can't wait. I hope they tie in Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah.
What they did with him. It's going to be great. Anyways, basketball-centric. One thing before we get into the Blazers, you said the only team that could compete might be San Antonio. Were you talking about compete in the West, or you mean compete, period?
I'm talking about teams that can compete with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
So right now, Chet Holmgren's a problem for the Lakers. And like you said, yeah, I got no problems with I'm not a LeBron guy, but I got no problems with what he said. They got the juice. We don't got the juice. We don't got our best player. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
I won you the first round series. What do you want from me? So, yeah, OKC's going to advance. It's not going to be necessarily close. But I do think there's one team, should this be our finals, that might match up pretty well, is the Knicks. I think you have to pick the two best players on OKC, which, yeah, right, like go up and down the roster, the two best players. It would definitely be SGA. I think Brunson matches up with SGA pretty well, actually, better than a lot of people think. And I think Karl Anthony Towns matches up very, very well with Chet Holmgren. So I think if there's to be a good finals this year, it's definitely going to be OKC out of the West. I hope the Knicks, I don't think Detroit, who I think is going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't think Detroit would hold a candle. I think they get waxed. But I think Knicks Thunder would be a pretty darn good finals.
Oh, dude, I hope so. I want the Knicks to get there. I'm having a lot of fun watching them play right now because they're so well connected as a group, and they appear to enjoy playing with one another. And Brunson is so fun to watch because he's so crafty at getting to his spots, but he's tough too for being an undersized guy in the NBA. Love him.
Yep. I think he defends really well, very underrated. I think that would be a fun matchup to watch.
Yes.
Anyways, Blazers. I think we can go one of two ways. Well, there's actually a third way, but that's the boring way, and I don't think it's going to happen. The third way, which we won't talk much about, is for Dundon to say, you know what? We're going to do absolutely nothing. We're going to put everybody on short-term deals, and we're going to run it back last year. That is technically an option. I don't see it happening, so we're not even going to consider option 3. I consider mainly option 1, option 2. Option 1, the more likely, in my opinion, is that we keep with this young group, don't invest heavily in veterans who are over the age of 30, and we keep acquiring picks, maybe find a sneaky good deal out there like did for Denny Avdia, and just maintain the course that way. Then also, I don't think you keep Splitter in that scenario. I think you go out and you get a guy who's really good at rebuilding rosters. I'm not sure if Tibbs is still available, but someone like Tom Thibodeau would be pretty good for that. Or Dundon says, you know what? Got this new Ferrari out in Portland. Or Dundon says, you know what? Got this new Ferrari out in Portland I want to take for a ride. I'm going to put all my chips in, and I'm going to go try to get the two biggest fishes I can. I don't really care what it costs me. If I can bring in guys to surround Drew, Dame, and Denny, I'll give the entire roster and picks up to go get those names. Giannis, I don't know why. I really hope we're connected to Anthony Davis. I love him when he's on the court, but my goodness, if you gave more than a bag of potato chips and like, I don't know, Robert Williams expiring contract this summer, and then he winds up playing 20 games a year for the next 4 years, that's really going to hurt. I know potentially the upside's there. I know Dame loves him, which is why I'm sure the name is mentioned, because Dame was drafted with him, same draft class. But, man, you just can't – we need a surefire. If you bring somebody in, it better be someone who's playing 6+ a year for the next 4 years. And there's no way, there's no person on this planet that will circle Anthony Davis for 60 games a year for the next 4 years, you know? So
no, 100%.
I really hope it's someone like Giannis, a sneaky good name now that Orlando has disappointed yet again, and they're in a coaching search too. Push all the chips in the middle of the table. What's it going to take for someone like Franz Wagner? I don't know what we'd have to give up. Clearly, Orlando's needed guards and shooting. We also need guard shooting. But if you can go get Franz Wagner, man, I'd give up a lot for Franz Wagner. Anyways, Chad, that's all I got today. We either go young or we go all in to win right now. I really hope they invest in this roster. I really hope Dame gets to be a part of it in a couple of years when we really make a deep run. But I think it's just better to invest in the future. Small market team, and we get a deal done for the stadium. They renovate the Moda Center in a couple of years. We're sitting pretty. Anyways, I'll listen off the air.
I appreciate it, Mike. Man, he had a lot of things there. Number one, if your name is Mike, you can get a free sandwich at Firehouse Subs. That's amazing. I feel like I'm being discriminated against. What about Chads? The Chads always get screwed in these type of deals. But then again, they don't have a Jersey Chads. They got a Jersey Mike. So if your name's Mike, go to Firehouse Subs. According to Mike in North Portland, you get a free sandwich right now. And I'll react to what he had to say. He wants the Blazers to invest. And I'm hoping they do as well. All right, we'll react to that when we come back. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, Michael Shacker, who works all of the football games with Mike Parker, and during the commercial break, he's like, I noticed you didn't bring up the Oregon State Beavers football schedule to plan any trips. And he's like, what, a trip to Boise in November doesn't sound appealing to you? So I'm looking at the Oregon State Beavers football schedule right now. They open up the season in Houston against the Cougars on September 5th. Now, Houston is a pretty sweet place, and I've seen the football stadium down there, on TV. It looks pretty awesome. Like, that's a place I wouldn't mind checking out. But I don't want to be in Houston on September 5th because it's going to be hotter than blazes down there with the humidity. They do get Texas Tech at Research Stadium, which is awesome. And then they have a trip late September to UTEP. Now, the only reason why you go to that game is because it's pretty sweet to fly into UTEP and just go to a game at the Sun Bowl. UTEP plays at the same stadium where they host the Sun Bowl. And I've been to a couple of Sun Bowls, and I like the vibe and the environment down there. Small airport, easy to get in and out of. And sometimes it's tough to find flights into El Paso, but, that's one option. Now, Colorado State, they have a new stadium there. In fact, I think it's new as of probably around 2016, 2017. I've been to a few games at Colorado State, but not in the new stadium. But I've been told it's pretty nice. You like that place, Shacker, the new stadium at Colorado State? Yeah, Shacker likes it. I have not been there, but that's a good place to go. And that game is going to be in early October. So if you want to go check the Beavs, I would recommend a game at Colorado State. It's right there in the foothills, beautiful area, and that would be a good environment, underrated environment. But most importantly, because Colorado is easy to get to, and the drive from the airport out to the stadium is easy. And when you're right there in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, it's spectacular in terms of view and the overall vibe. But yeah, me and my buddy Steve went to a few games up at Colorado State, in the old stadium. It was awesome. And then they've got trips at Fresno, and no one has any desire to go to Fresno, California at any time. No one wants that. At Boise, at Washington State. Yeah, Boise, now I've gone on many road trips out there with Isaac before. I like going to Boise. I like the drive out there. I think it's beautiful. I have not been to a football game at Boise, but I wanted to see the Smurf turf with my own eyes. So Isaac and I drove over there one day, and there was nothing going on. We just pulled up in the parking lot, walked over, and I snapped a couple of pictures because, there are open parts of the stadium so you can look in and see. And the blue turf still annoys me. It's like everyone else basically plays on green grass, and you're going to have a blue turf, you morons. What are you, special? I just think that's bizarre. But Boise in November could be a little bit chilly too. But that's it. I would say of the games, the road games, Colorado State, the best. Boise's nice because you don't have to fly and just drive. It's easy. Houston's too hot on September 5th. Colorado State looks like the best, October 3rd. So that means you're going to get a ton of sunshine and usually great temperatures weather-wise in Colorado. At Fresno, no one wants to go to Fresno. And then you've got the two games at Boise and Washington State. But all in all, a pretty good schedule for the Beavs. I have heard I know a couple of parents who have kids on the Beavers football team. A little chaotic right now with the new coaching staff down there. A little chaotic. They're trying to sort through some issues. And I think what happens is sometimes when you get a head coaching gig, you know that certain jobs are going to be a challenge. And then when you get on site and you look at what you're dealing with, then you realize how much of a challenge it's going to be. That's all. But we'll see how things shake out. But that's what I love to do. NFL schedule will come out next week, and then you can plan your trips. I think the weekend getaway, it's a perfect thing because you're not gone for too long. You limit your expenses, and you get a chance to get away for a few days and enjoy something that's awesome. Now, my buddy and I love going down to Tempe because it's basically perfect. You fly into the airport. You're like 5 minutes from Tempe. You can catch an Uber ride over there. And then they've got a ton of new hotels right around the stadium. And then all of these different food options which are within walking distance. The only downside is that if you want to go to an NFL game on the Sunday following, like let's say an ASU game, then you got to drive out to Glendale. And that's a pain in the ass because that's way out there. Now, what we have done before, we've done the trifecta, where we go in and if you get later in the season, they'll split up those when it's not a billion degrees down there. So when you get into like October, if Arizona and Arizona State are playing a home game on the same day, they'll split it up. So one game will kick off at around noon or 1, and then the other team will kick off later in the evening time for that night game, which used to be like Pac-12 after dark. So we've done that before. We'll hit one game and then drive to Tucson or drive from Tucson to Tempe to catch the other game. And then if that's paired up with an NFL game, you go catch the NFL game on Sunday. So we do like doing the trifecta. We've done the quadfecta where we've got 4 games in a 2-day period, but that gets to be, it's a lot, because you got to cram a lot into a very short period of time. We went to a Colorado game last year in November, late November, and we froze our tails off. It was a night game at Colorado with Arizona State, and it was awesome. I mean, clear skies, sunshine, but once the sun went down, it was cold. And I brought some warm gear, but I wasn't quite warm enough. So we had to go warm up in the field house at halftime, and then we went back and we gutted it out the rest of the way. But that was chilly. Especially as I get older, I get cold too easy. Right now, halftime at Madison Square Garden, the Sixers with a 1-point lead, 62-61. So the Sixers showing some bounce back ability, some resolve after that rough performance where they got whacked by nearly 40 points in game number 1, 39-point loss. Tyrese Maxey's doing what he needs to do. He's got 19 points. That's a game high first half. OG Anunoby with 13 points for the Knicks. So we'll see if the Sixers can get through this game and even up the series at 1 game apiece, knowing that they're going to get Joel Embiid back at some point. That would be very helpful. But we'll see. And that's the frustrating part with some of these star players, like the availability. Like, I'd love to watch Embiid play, and I think he's tremendous. But, you got to be available. And the other thing that's on my mind is, Dame. When he comes back, how are he and Denny going to figure things out on the floor? Now, going back to Mike in North Portland's phone call, first off, he's excited about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie that's coming out. I got a couple of cups. They've got special packages at Burger King right now. So I got a couple of collectible cups. So I would encourage you to check that out. But in terms of the Blazers, I mean, if they can execute a deal where they go big game hunting, I would love to see that. Where you can make a move, eliminate a couple of your big contracts, and then bring in a star player. And then the Blazers have the tools to be able to go out and be a legitimate contender in the West. That'd be a lot of fun. All right, let's go out and talk to Ali. Is it Ali or Ali? Let's go to talk to Ali. Ali, what's up, my friend? You're on the show. Fire away, buddy.
Love your show. Second-time caller. And one of the reasons I like your show, you are a proud father. You always talk about your son, Alex, and your daughter. That's a good thing to hear all the time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And as far as the Blazer and these rumors, in my humble opinion, if it is Giannis, I will go for it. If you give a couple of young players and, draft picks. But as far as Durant and Anthony Davis, unless they are free agent, honestly, I don't think it's a good idea to mortgage the Blazer for those two guys. That's my humble opinion.
No, I appreciate that. Hey, Ali, I do like the idea of Giannis. I'm with you on Giannis. If you've got an opportunity to make a deal where you can bring Giannis in, you simply have to do it. You've got to look into it.
You have to. Honestly, it doesn't come very often when players like that, and, you have a room, like a window for Damian Lillard 2-3 years, you will win one championship, I would guarantee.
And that would be awesome.
And as far as the playoff, I'm going to go out on a limb and say San Antonio will not win the championship this year for a simple reason, because they are not playoff tested and they didn't play a team yet very physical or dirty yet. So they are not very well tested as far as the playoff, and that's the reason why I'm picking them not to win the championship this year. Okay. Another year or so, maybe. But for Wemby, as far as how I think, in my humble opinion again, how you play him. Honestly, you keep him out of balance if you can. Attack him physically. And the other thing is even more important it's not easy to deny him the ball because some of these freaks, once they get the ball, you cannot stop them. And your only chance to defend them is to play them physical and try to deny them the ball.
I agree. Now, Ali, do you have any children?
I have 4 children, but that's why I like you.
What are the ages?
You are a proud father.
What do you have? Boys and girls? What are the ages?
No, I have 4 boys.
Wow.
And they start from 30 years old to 44.
That's great, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. I've been around when the Blazers won the championship, so I'm an old guy, you know.
Okay, so I got to live vicariously through you for a moment. How awesome was it when the Blazers won the championship in '77? I was only 2 years old.
Oh my God! I swear, I was living in Eugene, believe it or not, and they are coming back from Philadelphia, and they won Game 6, and we drove 2 hours from Eugene, and myself and 2 friends. And we came to the airport around 4 o'clock in the morning, and just to see them boarding from the airplane to the bus, and we just hear from a distance, and then we go drive another 2 hours, go back to the Eugene, you know. So that was amazing. It was amazing here, and I wish in my lifetime left they win another championship.
That's great. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's all I want. I'm not greedy, Ali. I just want one title before I die.
one title, and we were so close in 2000.
Yeah.
And 10 minutes left, fourth quarter, and the Blazers were in Los Angeles. They were ahead by 15 points, and they blew it up.
Yeah.
You know, it just was heartbreaking at that year. You know, fourth quarter, Game 7, and and they just were ahead by 15 points. And they lost it.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Ali, I appreciate it, and congratulations on your 4 boys. That's pretty awesome, man. Nice work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man.
You got it. You got it. Love Ali, man. Nice guy. Thank you, Ali. John says, is that Victor on again right now? No, that was Ali. He sounds like a calmer version of Victor. Victor is very passionate, which is nice. But see, that's what I'm talking about. Ali understands. He talked about the excitement of the championship. I just want one before I die so I can, experience it here in this town with all of you. I think that'd be pretty awesome. And that's why I get so critical of teams when they blow opportunities like that Game 7 against the Lakers, because you don't know when you're going to get a look at it like that again. And from that time, the Blazers have not had that close of a look at a potential championship, and that was 26 years ago. That's a long time. Now, I've still got some time, so maybe there's still time left to where they can make things happen. But, yeah, simply, of all the big names that are out there, if you've got a chance to bring in Giannis, you simply have to investigate that and try to make it happen. Would he sign an extension in Portland? I don't know, but you got to investigate. And the good thing is you got some guys on the team that he may want to play with that can be very persuasive. So get Dame, get Drew, get those guys on the phone and say, yo, bruh, Giannis, what do you need? Come to Portland. That would be amazing. That'd be a lot of fun. And obviously I'd love to cover that team. But the problem is, even with Giannis, the West is so deep and so talented that I don't know. I don't know if it's enough or not because the West is so deep. But at least with Giannis, you got someone that can, have a chance or stand a chance against Wemby. But that'd be pretty sweet. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620. I appreciate your time on this Wednesday. Halftime right now with the Knicks and Sixers. Philadelphia on top by 1. And then we got the Spurs and Timberwolves coming up at 6:30. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, New England Patriots quarterback Drake May has called his head coach Mike Vrabel a, quote, great human being, and said he doesn't believe the coach's off-the-field issues will be a distraction for the defending AFC champions. And as time goes on, we're getting more and more reports. There was one that dropped today that Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel had rented a boat together. I think it was back in 2021 while she was pregnant. Further evidence that you probably should just not say a word if pictures drop and you're caught in an affair. Don't go with the hard denial. Just don't say a word. But when you come out with the hard denial and you act like nothing happened, and you got a place like the New York Post that's all over you, you're in trouble. So there you have it. Drake May says Mike Vrabel is a great human being. Drake May should ask his wife if he is a great human being. I'd like to get her response, her read on that situation. Hey, Drake, I appreciate your input, but what does his wife think right now about the coach? Does she think that coach is a great human being? I wonder if Rossini's husband thinks that she is a, quote, great human being. I don't know. I haven't talked to either one of them, so I don't know. Maybe they are. But that was one of those things where it's like right away, with the hard denials, it's like, okay, they're guilty. Now, I don't know what the Patriots are going to do. There are a lot of people speculating that, he's going to be fired or whatever. I don't see that happening. He just took them to a Super Bowl. And the great thing about being in sports is if you're really good at your job and you help your team win, you can get away with a lot. And then on top of that, you have an owner who has his own indiscretions with similar activities. It would be bizarre to have Kraft come out and say these type of activities are unacceptable for someone representing our organization. Because then he has to deal with the immediate follow-up. Yeah, but sir, weren't you caught on film at a rub and tug or whatever they call those places? And he has to answer that. Yes, I was. How's the guy like, I don't understand. If you have that type of money, can't you bring the rub and tug to like your place to where there's no cameras or something? I don't know. Whatever. It's just a bizarre situation. But the bottom line is if you win, and he took that team to the Super Bowl, they were ahead of schedule, you're going to have a good chance to keep your job. Second half now underway, and right now the Sixers have a 1-point lead, 69-68 over the Knicks, 8:37 to play third quarter. So it's a pretty good game. And Tyrese Maxey's getting hot. Paul George just hit a 3, so now Philly's up 4. Very good basketball game. The problem is I want to hear the atmosphere, but I can't because I've got Madison Square Garden's pretty awesome. Let's see if I can pull that up. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that's the problem, too, with all the changes that are going on in the studio. All the configurations are off right now. But we'll see. I would go check out Sean Hyken's work at rosegardenreport.com. You'll like that report on the coaching search and kind of the details that are going into that and what's going to take place over the next few weeks as they figure out the coach. I think Tiago Splitter's the leader in the clubhouse based on everything he did this year. But I also respect the Blazers going through a full coaching search to determine who they want to be their guy. And like I said, there's a lot of reporting out there on Tom Dunner right now. Now, like I don't have a problem with a full wide search, casting a wide net, however, that's how they're describing it, a wide net. I don't have a problem with that because it's going to help you make sure that you find the right coach for the job. The only time I'd have an issue with it is if you're hiring a coach just based on finances, meaning you have a great candidate, but you don't want to hire him because you can hire somebody else for less. Like, that's where I would draw the line. But I don't think the Blazers are going to do that. But that's the only time I'd take issue with that. But if you go through a coaching search and you talk to many different candidates and you end up finding someone that you believe is better for the team than Tiago, then hire him. Like, I love Tiago and I think he did a great job and I'd like to see him stay. But if you find someone who's better as a basis of your search, then make the right hire. So, I guess we'll have to see how things shake out, but I don't have a problem with the coaching search. I think that's I mean, I think the owner's being smart and wanting to investigate to make sure that they get the best possible, candidate. And he's going to learn a lot through the process. And that's one thing I've been told about Dundon is that he's someone that asks a lot of questions because he wants to learn the business, why they do the things the way they do it. So he's been asking a lot of questions. The only thing that I was ever concerned about was, we saw the report come out about their interest in Anthony Davis. I was told back around the trade deadline that he was boys with Nico Harrison, the former failed GM for the Mavs, and that's where the interest in Davis came from. Like, I don't want Nico Harrison should not be allowed to touch Tom Dundon. I'm going to get a restraining order. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to support Tom Dundon and make sure that people with bad ideas don't cloud his judgment. I don't trust Nico. If you trade Luka, frankly, I don't need your take on anything basketball-wise. And that would be my first question. Like, if I bought the Blazers tomorrow and Nico rolled up on me, I'd be like, hey, what's up? Are you Nico? Oh, you're Nico Harrison? Aren't you the guy that traded Luka Doncic and got nothing in return? And as soon as he said yes, I'd be like, nice talking with you. And I'd walk off. That's how I would handle that. Because any reasonable mind would know that that's just an insane decision. So if he's willing to trade Luka, do you really want to listen to anything he has to say? My guess would be no. But that's what I was told, that he, I think, neighbors or lives like a couple houses down, so he knows Nico really well. And what we see with a lot of these new owners, they want to pair themselves up and be around people who, know the game because they're trying to learn. And obviously Nico's got knowledge of the NBA and the players and everything going on because he was just a general manager. So, owners like guys like that where they can ask questions, get information, and learn about the business and the game and the players and, the different personalities around the NBA. Like, that whole process would be fun to me, just to dive in and learn everything about it that you possibly can. But at the same time, there's certain people where it's like, I really don't need your input. I'm not going to ask you for input. I don't need your input. You traded Luka. And that you talk about red flags. That would be a red flag. We knew the trade was bad as soon as it happened. And then, of course, he got fired. And then Anthony Davis played in like one game, and then he was out the rest of the year because he got hurt again, Anthony Davis played in like one game, and then he was out the rest of the year because he got hurt again, which is not a surprise. 1 point game, Sixers still on top, 76-75. They're about midway through the third quarter. But it is a very competitive up and down game. Hopefully the Minnesota-San Antonio game will be equally great. All right, big thanks to all of you for listening. Big thanks to Keith Smith for joining the show to talk NBA. Michael Shacker for engineering the program. I'll be back.